Good afternoon, everyone, from Lola, Montana. This is Suzanne Miller, owner of Dunrovin Ranch, and I really appreciate you joining me today because I would like to celebrate it's the birthday. I call it the birthday, but it really isn't, of my wonderful dog, Jewel. It's the anniversary of when she came to live with us. I don't know when she was born or where she was born, but for me, her birth started when she came to us in October of 2006. And at the time, they told me that she was somewhere between 18 months old and 3 years old. So that makes her either 14 and a half or 16. And I've just so enjoyed my Jewel all these years that I wanted to share some memories of her and some photos of her. But before we get started on that, I'd like to give a shout out to our tech guy who is celebrating his 9th anniversary today with his lovely wife, Kate. Can you get on and say hello, James?
I can by audio. Hello, everybody.
Good.
Thank you for the well wishes, Suzanne. I appreciate it.
Well, and Kelly just popped into the office and she said, did you know that it is a Hug a Drummer Day today in the United States? And James, aren't you a drummer?
I am. I get double or nothing today, I guess.
You get double from your wife today.
That's right.
Happy
That's
Drummer
great.
Day and happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. So I'm going to start with a slide or some photos of Jewel, and I want to show you the first photo that I ever took of her. And is it up, James? It's up, huh?
Yep, you're all set.
Okay, good. And you can see the fall colors behind her. And let me tell you how I came to get Jewel. I had lost a couple dogs due to a very bad accident in the summer of the year, and I was without a dog. And my son, my youngest son, and I were kind of keeping an eye on things going on at the Western Montana Humane Society, and they had a group of puppies. So I said to my son, I said, let's just go over and look at these puppies. And, you know, I know better than that, but I wanted the dog really badly. And we went over, and when we told them what we wanted a dog for and that we owned a small guest ranch, they said, you know, these puppies have shown a lot of aggression towards other dogs, and this might not be the best fit for you, but we think we have a wonderful dog that could be a really good fit for you. And at that point, they brought out Jewel. And I have to admit that at first I was not smitten. And the reason I was not smitten is she was very bonded to the trainer at the Western Montana Humane Society. And I was a little worried that she couldn't bond with us. She just didn't pay attention to us at all. She paid all of her attention to a woman named Lori there. So I asked them, I said, well, could I take her home for a week and do a foster care to see if she's going to be able to bond with us? And they said yes. So my youngest son and I brought Jewel home and played with her for a few days. I took this picture of her on the lawn the day she came in. You can almost see the suspicion in her eyes. She wasn't quite sure what to make of us. But by the end of the week, we were certain that this was the dog for us. She was so kind and patient and generous with everybody and everything that we decided we'd give her a chance. And she came with the name Jewel. And the lady at the Western Montana Humane Society pointed out a little white dot on the back of her neck and said, well, that's her Jewel. And that's what I've been telling people ever since. And you know, it's a name that she has more than lived up to. She has just been an incredible gem of a dog in so many ways. So let me see if I can advance this, James. I'm having a hard time here. I'm pushing the how do I?
Your right arrow key on the keyboard, right arrow key.
Yeah, oh, I am there, and I am pushing it.
And you might need to, there you go. Yep,
there we go.
select the
Okay.
window.
So this is Jewel during her first full summer with us. I had an employee that worked with me, and she got a puppy. And boy, I tell you, these two bonded. They were just fabulous. And Jewel taught the puppy how to be a dog around horses. And you can see they had matching collars. And you can also see on Jewel's collar that she's got all of these weeds stuck in it because she was running around all the time everywhere. The other thing I want to point out in this picture is her ear. the one that's flopped over backwards. This is a real characteristic of my dog, Jewel. I always tell her she can't keep her ears in order. And I'll kid with her. I'll say, why can I love you when you can't even keep your ears in order? And she just looks at me, and it's sort of her distinctive little mark. And the other thing that is very distinctive about Jules is she likes to cross her front feet. And I'll bet some of you who have been with me for a number of years have seen her out and about, sitting in the lawn or by the tack room or somewhere else with her front legs crossed. I thought this was very unusual. I'd never had a dog that sat quite like that before. And so it's very distinctive of Jewel. And of course, she's part pit and part lab, and she just loves the water. And living on the river was just a gift for both of us. Jewel was just a fanatic about fetching, and the river was one of her very best places to fetch. She still goes down to the river with me, and she looks at me as though she wants me to throw a stick in the river, but she doesn't really. She's tired now, and she doesn't want to throw herself into the water. She'll wait up for a while, and if I throw a stick very close, she'll get it. But there was a time when you just couldn't keep her out of the water or couldn't keep her from bringing sticks and putting them at your feet. She was just a veteran fetcher. The other thing I wanted to point out is her relationship with Cola. She is so patient. You know, we named Cola after the Lakota word for little brother, and I often think that, you know, Jewel looks at me as if to say, I could do without a little brother. This guy's a little pest. I know that many of you who have seen Cola, you know, pick his rear end up and back up to her and sit on her. This is constantly when the two of them are out together, and the little guy wants to keep his rump off the ground. He'll put his rump on her. Even in the car, in the upper left-hand picture, he is sitting on her in the back seat of my car. And then, of course, he has to bother her all the time, always trying to get her to play with him. And sometimes she does, but normally she doesn't, but she's very tolerant. She just puts up with him. She's such a gem. So here's a series of photos. We were on a ride at this particular time, and lunchtime was supposed to be our rest time for the horses and for people to have lunch, but Jewel was never, ever satisfied with sitting around. So she brought this stick to me, and you can see that I really used to tease her. I would make her sit down before I would throw it, and she would just quiver. She would just quiver in anticipation of the fun of going and getting it. And boy, when I throw it, she would just bound out to get it. And of course, balls were also one of her favorite things to do, to catch balls, and also to ride in the back of my truck. Those are two of her favorite things. And these photos of her in the truck really show a couple of things. Number one, she really wanted to be sure that she got in the truck and not in the trailer. My 6-horse trailer carries 6 horses, and it also carries 6 passengers. And when I have 6 passengers, there's not room for her in the truck, so she has to go and ride in what's called the dressing room of the trailer, not exactly with the horses. It's better than with the horses. She has her own bed and everything, but she doesn't like it, and she tries to sneak into the car. In the lower left, you see her trying to hide. She thinks we can't see her. She keeps her head down. You know, it won't make eye contact. And in the next group of photos, you'll see her there again with her ball and in my truck. The lower left-hand corner is where she really likes to ride in my truck, in between me and a passenger in the front seat. That's what she thinks is her spot. But if I leave the back door open to my truck, she'll get in the back and she'll get over into one corner and put her head down. And she thinks that if I don't look at you, you can't look at me, and you won't find me here. She just loved going with the horses, you know, fetching balls in the river, fetching sticks anywhere she could find one, and going on horseback rides were the favorite thing in all the world for Jewel to do. And for me too. It was just, I've had such the best relationship with this dog. She's just been so active and so genial and just so loving to me. And she just brought out the best in our outdoor activities. And here she is with me. No matter what I'm doing with the horses, she has to go along. And no matter what horse, they all knew her. And I've taken her just virtually everywhere, camping in the Bob Marshall, up into the Pyramid Mountains, all over the Sapphire Mountains. And, you know, she would come back from a very long horseback ride. And if it was a hot day, I'd go and get in a inner tube to float the Bitterroot River. But she didn't want to just float. She didn't want to just float on down. She wanted to fetch. So she would swim over to the side of the river, find a stick, and swim over to me in my inner tube and insist that I throw the stick downriver or upriver or wherever. And she would just go back and forth. Just boundless energy. I've never seen anything like it. She's just always wanting to go, go, go. That was her style. And, you know, she was very smart about going on horseback trips. If you look at the upper left picture, she taught herself to jump up on my stirrup and drink from my water bottle. So I didn't have to get off of my horse and give her water as we went along the way. She would look up at me and look a little bit thirsty, and I would stop and I would get my water bottle out, and she would jump right up and put her foot on my foot in the stirrup and drink right out of the bottle. She was great. In the next picture, you'll see that I'm stopped on a horse in an area where there's very little shade, and it was a very hot day, I remember. And I was talking with some people for quite a while, obviously, and both dogs, Jewel and Cola, found relief from the sun in the shade of my horse. They were smart little dogs when it came to horseback riding. They knew how to take care of themselves. And then in the lower left-hand corner, there she is with me and my horse Power when we went camping for a couple of weeks in the Bob Marshall Wilderness area. And I always take a cot because I had a hard time with my knees getting up off of the ground. So I'd always drag a cot into these places. And her favorite place to sleep out camping was right underneath my cot. I would put a horse blanket underneath the cot and she would crawl under there. And so we were very close. I was on top of her basically. And it was warm and toasty for her as well. And then in the lower right-hand picture, you see Jewel being, solicited and pressed into serving as a reverse Dalmatian dog. This was our original donkey, Senior Kona, all dressed up for a parade in which he was pretending to be one of the Clydesdale horses, one of the big draft horses. There was a great commercial that they did that had a donkey. So he was a Clydesdale wannabe. That's why he has all those feathers on the bottom of his legs. And we needed a Dalmatian dog to go on the wagon that the donkey was pulling. Well, we didn't have a Dalmatian, so we decided to put white spots on Jewel and make her go as a reverse Dalmatian dog. And she just went right along with the program. She was so passionate. And as you can see, she has her legs crossed yet again. That's her usual way of relaxing, is to cross her legs. Okay, let's see what else I've got here. Oh yeah, this is kind of, one of the greatest pleasures that I've been having with Jewel is getting old with her. It's just been so fun for me to watch her get old right at the same time that I'm getting old. And it's just reminded me that we all animals go through this phase of life, and it's made it less personal for me. I've enjoyed sharing these moments of transition with Jewel. So you'll see in the upper left-hand corner where she's needing a stool now to get into the car. And indeed, it's harder and harder for her to get into the car. And you'll see right next to her, I'm using a stool to put the saddle on my horse. Neither of us are able to do the things that we used to be able to do, but that doesn't mean we don't find great joy in life or in great joy with each other. The bottom left-hand photo was taken at an outdoor art exhibit near Lincoln, Montana. It's called Sculptures in the Wild. And when you climb up on this chair where I am seated with Cola, you look at a different piece of art from a different perspective. It was really lovely. And so I climbed up there, and of course, if I'm climbing up there, Jewel has to climb up there too. She was not about to be left behind while I sat with Cola. She keeps trying to keep going no matter what happens. And there, of course, I'm sitting on my porch swing with my two wonderful dogs, and Jewel curled up next to me. I tried to find a photo that I had taken some time ago of me in a reclining chair watching Downton Abbey on TV. And even though Jewel weighs in excess of 50 pounds, something like 60 pounds, she would manage to get into my lap. I'd have to get in the recliner with my legs out, stretched out in front of me, and she would jump up on my lap and cuddle with me. 90% of her was on my legs and not my lap because she's so big and long, but that's really where she wanted to be. She always wants to be close to me, and I want to be close to her too. And I just hate the thought of the fact that our canine friends don't live as long as we do. And I know that I will be losing Jewel in the coming months or years, I hope. But I can't thank her enough for having shared these years with me. I just love this dog. She's an incredible addition to my life. And we've shared so many joys and sorrows. When I feel down and out, I often go and walk with Jewel because I get such pleasure from her. And I'm going to let's see if I can move on to the next one. Not working here. I think they think that I'm going to go back to the first one because I think the first one was actually the second one. There we go. This is what I meant for the last photo. And that is, I hope to walk off into the sunset with my animals, my horses and my dogs. And one of the ones that will stick with me the rest of my life has been my wonderful dog, Jewel. So I really appreciate you joining me for these few moments just to stop and think about what a wonderful animal she has been for me. And I hope that you're thinking about your animals too, your cats or your dogs or those special animal companions with whom you share your life. And, they bring such joy to me in so many different circumstances. And this, of course, is me with Chinook and Jewel just walking towards the mountains. I'm not really sure why I got off the horse and started walking, but for whatever reason, I treasure this photo that somebody took of me because it really sums up the things that bring joy to me in my life. So with that, I will say adieu. I really do thank you for sharing this with me. I'll go on to chat if you'd like to ask me any questions about Jewel. She's here in my office with me, sitting over in the corner on her comfy little bed. And early this morning, I gave her a special bone for her birthday. I also had to give one to Cola, of course. But, just like old people, she has problems with her digestive tract and all of this kind of thing. So she only gets fed in the morning, or I would be giving her a bone now. So I wanted to feed her in the morning when she's used to being fed. So she had a great big bone, and she's had a special day. And I'm going to end the day with hugging my wonderful dog, Jewel. And with that, I will say adieu. We will be back on next Tuesday at 12:30 or at 2:30, and we'll be talking about our bench bird feeders and stage one of the whole new system that we're putting together out there. I really thank you for joining me, and I will say goodbye. Thank you.